missiles grows and the guidance systems become more accurate, staging operations from the safety of Hawaii makes more sense. It also allows the B-2s to practice with F-22 Raptors assigned to the 199th Fighter Squadron, a unit of the Hawaii Air National Guard. This integration conjures up future long-range, all-stealth strike packages. The F-22s would not just defend the bombers, they could also scout ahead while maintaining the mission's low observability on radar. These fighters can evade radar even better than a B-2 and can defeat anything in a dogfight. This is similar to the training during a B-2 flight from Missouri. We hide. One B-2 pilot described the ethos of these missions. That's what we do. Flying long-range missions requires aerial refueling, and so tankers surprisingly made an appearance during the exercises. Although B-2s can fly 6,900 miles on a full tank, refueling extends the time over targets. The tankers are not built to evade radar, so they would likely be available outside the range rings of enemy anti-aircraft batteries on the ground. The drills gave pilots the chance to practice other options, like hot pit refueling. During those operations, airmen refuel the B-2 while the engines are running. One B-2 conducted hot pit refueling at Wake Island, a coral limestone atoll in the mid-Pacific, the Air Force said. The release doesn't say why this is important, but the reasons are scary. First, the B-2 is most vulnerable when the ground, especially if an enemy is monitoring refueling stations. Second, if there is a sortie of several bombers and they can only refuel one at a time at a remote airfield, there will be a premium on quick turnarounds. And third, the airfield they are landing at could have been bombed with chemical, radiological, or biological warheads, with refuelers and mop suits, and the pilots may want to leave fast. Never forget that B-2s can carry nukes, and would be a way to respond to the use of weapons of mass destruction. That makes all sorts of Armageddon scenarios a possibility. The Air Force never said specifically that the Guam killer prompted these operations, and it's been in the crosshairs of missiles for a long time. But staging operations from Hawaii is one of the clearest signs that the Pentagon is planning for a war without Guam on the table. Our active duty and Guard members worked seamlessly.
Increased autonomy, hypersonic weapons and so-called smart skins where sensors are built into the side of the aircraft itself. Some of these characteristics may have been on display more than a year ago when Northrop Grumman's Super Bowl ad revealed a flashy first look at its rendering of a new U.S.6-TH generation fighter jet. Northrop is one of a number of major defense industry manufacturers who will bid for a contract to build a new plane, when the time is right. While there are not many details available on this work, it is safe to assume Northrop is advancing concepts, technology and early design work toward this end. Boeing is also in the early phases of development of a U.S.6-TH gen design, according to a report in Defense News. The Navy's new aircraft will, at least in part, replace the existing inventory of FA-18 Super Hornets which will start to retire by 2035. Navy officials said. The Navy vision for a future carrier air wing in 2040 and beyond is comprised of the carrier-launched variant of the Joint Strike Fighter, the F-35C, and legacy aircraft such as the A-18G Growler electronic jamming aircraft. Also, Around this time is when Navy planners envision its sixth-generation aircraft to be ready, an aircraft which will likely be engineered for both manned and unmanned missions. Technologies are rapidly advancing in coatings, electromagnetic spectrum issues, artificial intelligence, maneuvering, superiority in sensing the battle space, communications and data links, Navy leaders have said. Navy officials also add that the Navy is likely to develop new carrier-launched unmanned air vehicles in coming years as well. For instance, Northrop's historic X-47B demonstrator aircraft was the first unmanned system to successfully launch and land on the deck of an aircraft carrier. Analysts have speculated that as sixth-generation developers seek to engineer a sixth-generation aircraft, they will likely explore a range of next-generation technologies such as maximum sensor connectivity, supercruisability and an aircraft with electronically configured smart skins. Supercruise technology would enable the new fighter jet to cruise at supersonic speeds without needing afterburner, analysts have explained. As a result, Supercruise brings a substantial tactical advantage because it allows for high-speed maneuvering without needing afterburner, therefore enable much longer on-location mission time. Such a scenario provides a time advantage as the aircraft would likely outlast a rival aircraft likely to run out of fuel earlier. The Air Force F-22 has a version of Supercruise technology. Maximum connectivity would mean massively increased communications and sensor technology such as having an ability to achieve real-time connectivity with satellites, other aircraft and anything that could provide relevant battlefield information. The new aircraft might also seek to develop the ability to fire hypersonic weapons, however such a development would hinge upon successful progress with yet-to-be-proven technologies such as scramjets traveling at hypersonic speeds. Some tests of early renderings of this technology have been tested successfully and yet other attempts have failed. The Air Force Chief Scientist, Dr. Jeffrey Zacharias, has told Scout Warrior that the U.S.
designed to open up a safety zone or air corridor for other, less stealthy aircraft to conduct attacks. In order to accomplish this, B-2 stealth technology was designed to elude lower frequency surveillance radar which can detect the presence of an aircraft as well as higher frequency engagement radar precise enough to allow air defenses to track, target and destroy attacking aircraft, developers explained. It is widely believed that modern air defenses such as these are now able to detect many stealth aircraft, therefore complicating the operational equation for bombers such as the B-2, senior Air Force officials have acknowledged. These newer air defense technologies are exhibited in some of the most advanced Russian-built systems such as the S-300 and S-400. In fact, according to a report from Dave Majumdar in the National Interest and reports in the Russian media, the Russians are now engineering a new, more effective S-500 system able to hit some stealthy targets out to 125 miles or further. In fact, the National Interest once cited a Russian media report claiming that stealth technology was no longer useful or relevant, a claim that is not believed to be true at all, or is at least unambiguously disputed by many experts and developers familiar with stealth technology. For this reason, many senior Air Force developers have explained that moving into the future stealth technology is merely one arrow in a metaphorical quiver of offensive attack capabilities used by the B-2. Nonetheless, Herzog explained that upgraded B-2 stealth technology will have a much improved operating ability and strategic advantage against a vastly wider range of air defenses. With necessary upgrades, the B-2 can perform its mission regardless of location, return to base safely, and permit freedom of movement for follow-on forces, including other long-range strike platforms. Modifications such as the DMSM are necessary to preserve this strategic advantage against 21st-century threats, Herzog added. The DMSM upgrade does not in any way diminish the stealth properties of the aircraft, meaning it does not alter the contours of the fuselage or change the heat signature to a degree that it would make the bomber more susceptible to enemy radar, developers said. Many advanced air defenses use X-band radar, a high-frequency, short wavelength signal able to deliver a high-resolution imaging radar such as that for targeting. S-band frequency, which operates from 2 to 4 GHz, is also used by many air defenses, among other frequencies. X-band radar operates from 8 to 12 GHz, synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, sends forward an electromagnetic ping before analyzing the return signal to determine shape, speed, size, and location of an enemy threat. SAR paints a rendering of sorts of a given target area. X-band provides both precision tracking as well as horizon scans or searches. Stealth technology, therefore, uses certain contour configurations and radar-absorbing coating materials to confuse or thwart electromagnetic signals from air defenses. These techniques are, in many cases, engineered to work in tandem with IR, infrared, suppressors used to minimize or remove a heat signature detectable by air defenses' IR radar sensors. Heat coming from the exhaust or engine of an aircraft can provide air defense systems with indication that an aircraft is operating overhead. These stealth technologies are intended to allow a stealth bomber to generate little or no return radar signal, giving air-dense operators an incomplete, non-existent, or inaccurate representation of an object flying overhead. Also, the B-2 is slated to fly alongside the service's emerging B-21 Raider next-generation stealth bomber. This platform, to be ready in the mid-2020s, is said by many Air Force developers to include a new generation of stealth technologies vastly expanding the current operational ranges and abilities of existing stealth bombers. In fact, Air Force leaders have said that the B-21 will be able to hold any target in the world at risk, anytime. While many senior Air Force officials have made this point in recent years, the ability of the B-21 to strike anywhere in the world was something emphasized by Lieutenant General Arnold Bunch, Military Deputy, Office of the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Acquisition, told Scout Warrior last year in an exclusive interview. Naturally, many of the details of these stealth innovations are, by design, not available for public discussion according to Air Force.
Working with the Navy over the last year and a half, to understand what does the carrier air wing need from a complementary perspective with the F-35, with their EA-18G, Growler, E-2D and Block 3 is that Dan Gillian, Boeing's F/A-18E/F program manager told the National Interest at the Navy Leads Sea Air and Space Conference. Block 3 is that complementary asset. Compared to the 2013 version of the jet, Boeing is placing less emphasis on stealth, but the aircraft does retain some of the older concept's low observable enhancements, Gillian said. That's not what the future fight is about, Gillian said. The threat has migrated all over the place. Enough stealth is important, but you don't need it all the time, all the stealth you could possibly get. The major features that the new version retained from the 2013 concept are conformal fuel tanks. The new conformal fuel tanks add 3,500 pounds of fuel to the jet and extend the aircraft's range by nautical miles. The conformal tanks are important since to need to get weapons out at range, Gillian said. The new Block 3 also adds a new computer, new large area cockpit display, a high bandwidth tactical targeting network technologies, TTNT, data link, a new fuel tank mounted long-wave infrared search and track system, IRST, and new integrated defensive electronic countermeasure Block 4 suite. Additionally, the Block 3 Super Hornet will be built with a life-extended 9,000-hour airframe life. Perhaps the most important upgrade is long-range IRSD system, which is designed to be a counter-stealth sensor, Gillian said. The Navy considers it essential to countering new enemy stealth aircraft such as the Chinese J-20 and Russian PAK-4. Gillian that Boeing and Navy solved many of the traditional issues associated with infrared sensors, but didn't go into detail. Company officials have previously said the new IRST is able to derive accurate range data in up-to-Q weapons. Gillian said that all of the new Block 3 aircraft Boeing delivers to the Navy will have these enhanced features. However, they could be retrofitted to older aircraft during a midlife upgrade. The Block 3 could enter production in the 2020s, but the package of systems could begin retrofits shortly after, when they want to fly the aircraft and are laying in some cases their own plans and budgets in place for the program, Textron Chief Executive Officer Scott Donnelly told investors during an earnings call on July 19. We really are very focused on experimentation program because I think that not only will the US Air Force get a good read on the capability of the platform, but I think a number of our prospective international customers are likewise on watching to see how the programs goes. The OX experiment will start in August for the Scorpion using a production version of the light combat jet. The Air Force has told the company that its evaluation will be extremely rigorous. The Air Force has articulated, the experimentation program will really put these aircraft through their paces. They have got a bunch of different mission scenarios that includes from flight envelope, a lot of different mission scenarios. Ordnance missions that are going to be run over the course of that August, maybe in the beginning of September, Donnelly said. They don't have a specific criteria or pass, fail, they want to see what the aircraft are capable of. Obviously, you have things like Scorpion and N-86 which are both very, very capable platforms, very different in terms of their performance envelope, and they want to see what each of those aircraft can do, as well as A-29, which we expect is also in there. The OX is an experiment at this point, but factors such as the Senate Armed Services Committee adding $1.2 billion in funding to purchase such as aircraft to the fiscal year 2018 budget bode well for the effort. Indeed, Donnelly expressed confidence that an acquisitions program might emerge. I think the Chief and a lot of very senior people Air Force have been articulating the need for a platform like this. And they feel that it's important to the Air Force to have the capability like this, but it would be hard for them, I think, even on an unfunded list, to advocate for something that they haven't flown and seen demonstrated, Donnelly said. So I think that their interest and desire on the program, and certainly, as you know, the Senate Armed Services for instance saying what we have recognized this is a need and we want to put budget authority in there for it. There is a potential market for the OX in the foreign market.
The deployment comes on the heels of the arrival of B-1B Lancers at Anderson. The Lancers long-range bombers that were deployed to Guam for the first time in a decade replace the aging B-52 bombers in Guam. Bomber aircraft provide the U.S. Pacific Command area of responsibility with an effective deterrent capability, ensuring the regional security and stability of the U.S. and our allies and partners, General Terrence O'Shaughnessy, Pacific Air Forces Commander, said in the release. These bomber deployments visibly demonstrate our readiness and commitment to the Indo-Asia-Pacific region. A B-2 has a wingspan of 172 feet, or more than half a football field, and a height of 17 feet, according to the U.S. Air Force. The bombers, which can fly up to 50,000 feet, are primarily stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. In 2008, a B-2 crashed while taking off from Anderson, according to news files. The crew members survived, but the plane was lost. The plane's prime contractor is Northrop Grumman Integrated Systems Sector.
Raider released by the Air Force bears a superficial resemblance to the B-2 Spirit bomber. There are important distinctions, however. The B-21 moves its engines closer to the wing root, where they occupy the juncture between wing and fuselage, whereas the B-2's twin pairs of General Electric F-18E 100 engines are distinctly apart from the fuselage on the wing. The Raider's engine air intakes are angled and not serrated like those on the B-2 Spirit. The Raider also has over-wing exhausts to mask the infrared signature of the four engines, unlike the B-2. Interestingly, this is exactly how the B-2's exhausts were depicted in an April 1988 artist's conception of that bomber. The aircraft appears similar in size to the B-2 Spirit, almost certainly making it a four-engine bomber. The announcement of Pratt & Whitney in 2016 as a B-21 subcontractor narrows down the new bomber's engines to two designs, the F-100 and the F-135. The mature F-100, which powers the F-15 Eagle series of fighters, seems a sound choice, but the Air Force may want the F-135, which powers the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, for its growth potential and ability to lower engine costs for the F-35. Like its predecessor, the B-21 Raider will be a heavy strategic bomber designed to carry both nuclear and conventional weapons. If the B-2 is of similar size, it follows it will carry a similar amount of ordnance. This means two bomb bays. In order to keep costs down, the Air Force may elect to reuse the Advanced Applications rotary launcher from the B-2 bomber. The ARL is fitted one per bomb bay, each capable of carrying 8 bombs or missiles. In the nuclear mission, the Air Force will arm the B-21 with a long-range standoff (LRSO) missile, the next-generation stealthy nuclear cruise missile. It will also carry B-61 freefall nuclear gravity bombs, particularly the new B-61-12 bomb with daily yield capability. A combination of these two weapons will allow the B-21 to use its stealthy cruise missiles to clear a path through the enemy air defense network before dropping B-61 bombs on primary and secondary targets. For conventional missions, the B-21 will carry the JAS-MER conventional cruise missile and 2,000-pound GBU-31 Joint Directed Attack Munition satellite-guided bombs. The B-21 could use these weapons in a similar manner as its nuclear weapons, blasting its way through the enemy's defenses before dropping JDAMs. Alternately, the B-21 could be used as a missile truck, launching up to 16 JAS-MERs at enemy targets from a distance, or penetrating less sophisticated enemy defenses to deliver JDAMs on target. The B-21 will also need to carry the 30,000-pound Massive Ordnance Penetrator bomb, the largest conventional bomb in the U.S. arsenal, as the B-2 is currently the only bomber capable of lifting the enormous bomb. Like many new weapons systems, the Air Force
will allow the jet to cruise more economically at subsonic speeds when overland, where commercial supersonic flight is currently illegal, he says. Rather than focusing on reducing the sonic boom generated by short-range, low supersonic vessels as many similar concepts aim to do, Johnson strived to conceptualize a faster, longer-range aircraft that would enable an overwater route business case to be built, even if overland supersonic flight were still prohibited. The end result is a 135-foot-long, 25-ton jet powered by two mixed-cycle turbofan engines, able to accommodate up to 32 passengers and 4 crew members. Johnson estimates that the plane, which could travel up to 6,710 miles fully loaded, would require an estimated $120 million to construct, and tickets for the commercial airliner would cost roughly $3,300 per head for a round-trip flight, depending on fuel prices. The Cygnus M3 could theoretically be built with existing know-how, but it would take at least a decade to produce a viable prototype, Johnson admits. The main engineering challenges of this design would be finding and developing an appropriate power plant, though there are 2 suitable engines already in existence that could serve as the base, and dealing with the heat generated during Mach 2.8 cruise, he says. Then there are the legal roadblocks. While all the technologies required do exist and have been flown, some will still be covered by patents and military export restrictions, which will need to be overcome, he notes. More pressing, however, is the issue of safety. Even if well-funded, this is still a modern commercial craft that cannot be rushed into production and flight like many military aircraft in the past, some of which, like the SR-71, were quite dangerous to fly. A vast amount of redundancy must be designed in, he asserts, combined with a lengthy test program. The Cygnus M3 might be years from becoming a reality, but supersonic flight is well on its way to making a comeback. At the Paris Air Show last month, startup aerospace company Boom Technology announced that 5 airlines, among them Virgin, have placed orders for a supersonic commercial craft it is currently developing. The $200 million passenger jet, which is slated to arrive by 2023, will boast a top speed of Mach 2.2, or 1,451 miles per hour, more than 2.5 times faster than any other commercial plane, allowing travelers to fly from New York to London in a little over 3 hours. The airliner is still in its concept phase, however. The XB-1, a smaller version of the Boom